Back in that bag again. Whoa, yeah. Hey. Back in that
Hello
bag again.
and welcome back to the Splash City Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hartman. We are talking everything basketball related to the upper Midwest, and we're going to start off today's show talking about Groundhog Day for the Timberwolves. Yeah, it felt like it after back-to-back tough losses, collapses in the last few minutes of the games against the Suns and the Kings. And we'll talk about maybe why it's happening, what the Wolves can do about it, and is it just a trend or is it just a blip on the radar in a long NBA season? And then I also want to get into a little bit of college basketball. It's been Feast Week this week, meaning college basketball tournaments, Maui Invitational, Players Era Festival. Everybody's on these tournament schedules right now, and there's been some great games. And I'm unleashing my first top 10 list of the season in college basketball. And we'll talk a little bit about those teams and maybe some disappointments that we've seen as well in the college ranks. So buckle in. It's going to be a fun show. It's our Thanksgiving week episode, and I can't wait to get started. All right, the first thing I want to talk about today is the Timberwolves. It's been a tough couple of games. This has been a problem for the Wolves over the last few years. Again, they've recovered fine, and they've obviously had successful seasons and winning records and making the playoffs, Western Conference Finals. But it is a really odd, I think, and somewhat frustrating experience. So Friday night, the Wolves are in Phoenix. They're up 8 with 48 seconds to go or 50 seconds to go, and they lose. They collapse, turnovers, missed free throws from your best players. That night they had Jaden, Rudy, Julius, Ant, and Dante on the floor at the end of that game. And last night they were up 10 in Sacramento, and they get to overtime and lose to the Kings. This time, instead of DiVincenzo, Conley was on the floor at the end of that game. They both played a lot, but so lineups changed a little bit. It's kind of the same result, same team, same guys, same coaches. So a couple things I see at the end of these games, and I'll be honest, I'm blown away at NBA players who are unable to handle late game pressure like this. It's one thing to make shots, but like not even be able to inbound the ball, throwing the ball away. That's stuff that you see at maybe the high school level and younger. These guys have played big games. They've played tough environments, loud crowds, on the road, at home. And just to see them kind of panic is odd to me for guys who've been in the league, especially Julius, Rudy, Mike. They've been in the league a long time. Even Ant and Jaden and Naz, they've been in the league for 5-6 years now. And it's just, to me, it's troubling. It's telling me that they're not really learning or getting improvement at that juncture of the game, that critical point of the game. The crowd's getting into it. Things are kind of unraveling. Do they have a steadying presence to settle them down? Can they get the ball in bounds? And they struggled to do that. Both of these games, particularly in Phoenix. So those trends are just really bizarre. And again, this might be a 2-game thing and they figure it out but I think, as we've seen, if you've been following the Wolves the last few years, this isn't a new problem. Finch has talked about late game execution on both ends of the floor being an issue. And so, that this is one of the things that is separating the Wolves from the elite teams in the NBA is, just being able to manage a game down the stretch. What is your offensive identity? I could tell you right now, OKC knows what they're doing at the end of a game. Shea's running the show. He's getting to his spots. And if he can't, he's got teammates that he knows what they're going to be doing. And I don't know that the Wolves know that. Again, last night in the Kings loss, they talked about stagnant offense and playing some hero ball, little one-on-one, and it's just not going in. Ant missed a couple shots. Jaden missed the top of the key 3. And so, that's what separates a lot of these games. So, maybe you give up a lead, but at the end of the day, you got a superstar. You got the team that can get it done in crunch time when it matters. And the Wolves, really struggle at that point of the game. And so that's part of it. You know, they get too much isolation and just like the turnovers things is what's bothering me. And I just don't know what to say. You know, even when they get stops last night, they got a stop. Jaden gets a steal and he throws it away. And so there's an opportunity that you score there. Maybe that changes the game entirely and you win and you don't even go to overtime. And so it's just frustrating. The other thing I would say is, again, and I'm going to beat this drum, Jalen Clark getting 6 minutes. I just don't understand that philosophy from Finch. I don't know. I didn't read his post-game comments. But man, you know, when you got a 10-point lead at the end of the game, that's typically what they do with Rudy. They'll leave Rudy on the floor in a lead because they want that defense. They feel comfortable with that lead and being able to, you know, hold on defensively with Rudy. If they're behind, that's when you might see the Naz-Julius combo at the end of a game because they need scoring. So I don't know why that doesn't apply to Jalen. He didn't come in at the end of the Suns game to defend on the final possession. There was a timeout. You had a chance to sub. Dante's not a bad defender. Jalen's just an elite defender. And so he doesn't come into the game. And then last night, he's not in at the end of the game either, those last couple of minutes. And so 6 minutes for one of the better perimeter defenders in the league is mind-boggling to me. Now, he has offensive deficiencies, sure. So does Rudy, and Rudy plays 30-plus minutes a game. You got a 10-point lead with 3 minutes to go. DeMar DeRozan is the one killing you, and you know what they're doing? They're switching Mike Conley onto him. Well, Mike Conley can't guard DeMar DeRozan at all. It's too easy. So to me, that's Jalen Clark time. Bring him in. He's not going to kill you on offense. If you're going to isolate and play iso ball anyway, what's the difference? I just don't understand it. So, you know, they got their mismatches. They took advantage of it. Kings win in overtime. Wolves lose again. You know, right now the Wolves are on a seven player rotation. Essentially, Naz Reid and Mike Conley off the bench are the only ones getting meaningful minutes. Terrence Shannon Jr. came back last night, so that was encouraging that he's back in the rotation. It sounds like his foot injury was kind of ongoing during the start of the year, and maybe that's why he was off to such a slow start and didn't look like himself. So maybe there's some hope there that Shannon Jr. will be more of a rotation player moving forward. But I think they need to develop this bench more. And I know it's hard at times to watch guys struggle, but you're also not going anywhere if your 7-man rotation includes a 39, 38-year-old Mike Conley. I like Mike. He's been great, and we've talked about this before. But you draft these young guys, and you got to play. You got to see what you got to play them more than 5, 6, 7 minutes in a night. You know, if you can't trust them to play more than that in the middle of the game, like, yeah, you don't need to play them at the end of the game. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is 4-minute run here, 4-minute run there, maybe 2 more minutes later in the game. I just think, I'm not a big Rob Dillingham fan. Guys get paid to make draft picks. That's your job as a GM. And some GMs are better at their jobs than others. And I think right now what we're seeing is some of these draft picks, you move up in the draft to get Rob Dillingham, you expect him to play in year 2. And if he's not good enough to play, then you made a big mistake there. But I think Jalen Clark has earned, at least in my opinion, Finch apparently doesn't trust him, but I feel like Jalen Clark does what he's asked to do. Right? As a coach, I got guys that play roles. What are their roles? Can you excel in your role? Most of the league is excelling in your role. There's a handful of guys that do everything and they're special. But you look at, again, OKC. Cason Wallace has a role. Lou Dort has a role. Lou Dort isn't a great three-point shooter. And I would argue Jalen Clark is maybe a more skilled offensive player overall. Do you think Lou Dort plays 6 minutes a night? And no, absolutely not. So I think there just needs to be a little bit better management of the bench, where to get guys minutes, how to fit them in. Let Rob play a little bit more with certain lineups if you feel comfortable with that. But a 7-man rotation and one of them's 38 years old and can't guard anybody at the NBA level anymore. At least anybody, in crunch time. Like I don't understand some of the things that are going on right now. I think Finch is probably searching for stuff. He's trying to find something that works. Like again, he switched his lineup up at the end of the game the other night. I'm sure he had Conley on the floor because he felt like the turnovers would go down. He wanted a veteran, somebody who could settle things down. But then what happens is you still don't score. You still don't take care of the ball. And now you are worse on defense. So they got to find something here. It's a tough spot to be in, no doubt. They've rectified it in the past and figured it out enough to get to the Western Conference Finals. I just don't like the vibe right now on this team and the direction they're kind of going. But on the positive, Naz Reid. Naz Reid's been playing much better lately. He's been back to the Naz that we kind of expected him to be, I guess. For the first 10 games of the year, he was averaging about 12 points a game. And through his last 5, he's averaging closer to 16. And his rebounds are up. And that's, I think, a key indicator of Naz's involvement, intensity, focus on the game. So, when he's rebounding, you can tell his activity level's higher. Finch has used this saying in the past, and I think it's 100% true. The ball finds energy. And if you are coming in and bringing the energy, creating that energy in the team, doing some little things like rebounding, getting deflections, things like that, the ball will find you. And so, I think that's what we're seeing with Naz is he's just understandably so got off to a little bit slow start with how the his offseason ended this summer. But he's starting to hit a stride. So that's really encouraging. And I think if you can get him going and maybe Terrence Shannon Jr. is that other guy that was just not himself to start, and he gets going, that might change things a little bit for the Wolves, but I don't know that it changes the end of games. I think they really need to, my opinion is they need to make some deal before the trade deadline. I think they need another guy in here that they can trust, that can play a role. Ideally, it's, probably a point guard. But if it's not a point guard, it's got to be somebody who can defend guards in the NBA level. Yeah, encouraged by Naz. Ant had a big game scoring last night too, but his turnovers, his shot selection at the end of games, the Phoenix game, throwing the ball away on an inbounds and missing 2 free throws, like those are things you don't see Luka do, you don't see Shea do. And Ant, I think he wants to be in that conversation. He certainly talks on the court like he wants to be in that conversation. He complains about calls because he thinks he deserves that. He ain't in that conversation right now. He's not in that level in the NBA. He's got a lot of work to do to get there, in my opinion. Like, he's great. I think we all love him, and we're all waiting for this moment. Even when he was a rookie, we felt like, okay, we might have our guy here. And we still might. I'm not saying we don't. What I'm saying is he isn't there yet. The turnovers at the end of games, the missed free throws, you got a tech last night complaining about a foul call, and closers in the NBA are a unique breed, but they get there by doing those types of things at the end of games, knowing what shot I need to get, what shot can I make, what can I go to at the end of a game and get a bucket. It's just something it's not easy. Obviously, there's only 5 to 10 guys in the NBA that have that, but I think we were hopeful that this was our guy. I think the other frustrating thing, at least from my perspective, is we keep, and this is all Minnesota teams, so I know some of us are football fans too, but we're kind of seeing this. We're like, we can get to a level, but we're not going to the next level. Part of the offseason narrative with the Wolves was, we're going to keep everybody around. We're going to get off to a great start. We got continuity. We know who we are. We have, in my opinion, if that's the case, then these end of game things shouldn't be new problems. You should know what you're going to do. Everybody should have their, all right, we're up 5 with a minute to go. Like, this is our thing. Like, this is what we want to run. And they look as lost as they did last year at the beginning of the year when they had new roles with Randall and DiVincenzo. They look as lost as they did before when they had Cat at these situations. And it's just, why? Why a team this talented struggles so much in the last minute, 2 minutes of a game? So that's, other teams went out and got better. Other teams, have the pieces they already need because they trust them and they know what they're getting. I think we all felt like the Wolves were going to run it back. We were in the Western Conference Finals. Let's do it again. We got these guys. We're comfortable with them. And here we are scuffling through late November already, kind of with the same issues we've had. And that's where, where is the progress? Where are the steps forward? Where are the steps to compete with Denver and Houston and OKC? Not seeing it right now. Not to say it can't happen, but we're not seeing it right now. And that's what's frustrating. Whether it's the Vikings going from 14-3 to now, we trust this new quarterback, and now we're 4-7. Or the Wolves. Hey, we made it to the Western Conference Finals. Great. We're going to run it back. We feel like we got those pieces, and the young guys are going to improve. And now you're scuffling. So, it's just I don't know. I think I'm disappointed. Now granted, they win these 2 games, so you feel completely different, but they didn't. And now you got to go to OKC on Wednesday and play an absolute juggernaut on a pace to be one of the greatest teams in the history of the NBA. So, knowing the Wolves, this is a game they come out and win. And I guess that's what we can hope for on Thanksgiving Eve is a Wolves win at OKC. But they got to figure some of this stuff out and be more consistent at the end of games. They got to find what works for them. They got to find a formula. They got to find a lineup. And if they do that, things can change. But I'm down right now after these 2 losses because these are bad losses. These are the losses that take you from having home court in the first round of the playoffs to going on the road to Denver, being a 7 seed versus a 4 seed, right? Like these 2 losses. So it's frustrating, but we'll see what happens at OKC. It should be fun. It's always fun to play them. They are the elite of the elite, and we'll see if the Wolves have anything left to give them. All right, let's transition to college now. It's been a big week in the college game. This week is historically known as Feast Week, obviously with the Thanksgiving holiday. All the tournaments are going on, the preseason tournaments, and college basketball is doing a great job of scheduling each other. These teams are going at it. No one's hiding. We've got top 10 matchups, top 5 matchups. It feels like every night, and it's been absolutely great. So we are about a month into the season right now, and I wanted just to lay out my top 10 teams as I see them after watching. I think I've watched almost all of these teams, save for 1 or 2, at least once. Some of them I've watched multiple times. My number 1 team right now, and it's not a surprise, is Purdue. I watched them at Alabama go on the road and just play steady. Their big players stepped up. They won the Baha Mar Championship, defeating Memphis in the first round in a tough game. They got off to a little bit rocky start there, but then they absolutely obliterated Texas Tech in the championship game. So Purdue, with Braden Smith at the helm, they don't get rattled much. They played Houston nip and tuck last year in the NCAA tournament, and Houston's defense is the best defense in the country. And even then, Purdue was not rattled. Braden Smith handled it as well as you could. So until, they'll lose a game or 2 here this season, but I think there's kind of, in my opinion, a clear top 3, and Purdue I have at the top right now just because of Braden Smith's leadership. Number 2, I have Arizona. They came out and made a statement in their first game against Florida, defeating the defending national champs. But then they went to Connecticut and beat UConn. And to me, that was the most impressive, probably the most impressive win of the year, unless I'm forgetting one. But I think UConn is really good, and Arizona with Jaden Bradley. They're another team where any given night they got multiple guys beating you. Cole Pete, the freshman, Jaden Bradley, Burries is another freshman guard that plays a lot. And the other night, Del Orso came off the bench and dropped in 20. So Arizona's got size. They've got really good guards. I think that's the difference with this year's team for Arizona is their guards are as good as anybody out there. Number 3, I have Houston. Houston is not the prettiest team to watch all the time, but Milos Uzan, Manuel Sharp are absolute killers. They got Kingston Flemings, freshman, that is really good, and they are always going to play defense. They gutted out a win last night against Syracuse in an awesome game, winning in overtime. And I just feel like in the last 2-3 minutes of a game, Houston is not going to beat themselves, and they are going to do everything they can defensively on the glass. And Syracuse, to their credit, matched them. I love that Syracuse looks like they might be back, but Houston, I feel like it's so hard to beat them. Next up is Gonzaga. I watched them last night against Alabama, and Gonzaga, man, they are old and they are savvy, and they got some shot makers. Now they didn't shoot it great last night, but when they needed to, I love this. Mark Few. So Gonzaga was struggling on offense. Alabama had taken the lead. Gonzaga calls timeout. They had missed a bunch of threes. I think they were like 4 for 16 at one time from 3. And what does he do? He draws up a 3-point shot and they bury it. That's like confidence in your guy saying, no, we're good. We're going to make this shot. I'm going to draw it up. You're going to get a good look and you're going to knock it down. And they did. And from then on, they just ran away with it. Graham Ike is a beast down low. They got Brayden Huff. So they got 2 bigs that are really good. Their guard, he's a freshman, but he's from Spain. He's an older guy. So they're just really good. They got Tyon Grant Foster, who's transferred from Grand Canyon, got eligible this year, and he's like 25 years old. So he's a boy playing against, or a man playing against some boys out there. And Gonzaga looks poised to make a run this year. I got UConn. Talked about them a little bit. I really like UConn, even though they lost at home to Arizona. All of these teams, by the way, are playing against other great teams in the next 2-3 weeks. So we'll learn a lot more. And then I got Duke. I got Duke at number 6 right now, undefeated. Not, I would say maybe as impressive as last year's Duke team, but they kind of have a nice chemistry going, and I really like Isaiah Evans shooting the 3 ball, and he's gotten a little bit more explosive going to the basket as well. So I got Duke, and then I got a fellow ACC team, Louisville. Louisville dismantled Kentucky, who doesn't look great right now, but Louisville is. They went into Cincinnati and won this week as well. Then I got Florida, defending national champs. I think they'll get their guard situation figured out, though I don't think their ceiling is nearly as high as it was last year. And then Illinois with their Balkan block and all their European dudes, and Andrei Stojakovic and Mirkovic. They got some dudes on that team, but I think the key with them is the return of Kylan Powell at point guard. Big, physical, strong guard, gets downhill, makes plays. I like Illinois a lot. And then for my 10th spot, I couldn't pick one. There's too many things going on. I got Michigan, BYU, and Tennessee. So I'm kind of waiting to see what happens. Tennessee and Houston hook up today. Michigan looked really pedestrian, barely beaten Wake, barely beaten TCU. And then last night, they just completely demolished San Diego State. BYU's another one. They lost to UConn, but they didn't have some of their guys. So I still think BYU is really, really good. And Tennessee is undefeated, but they haven't really been tested yet until today against Houston. So that's my top 10 teams in college basketball as of today. We'll see where things go the rest of Feast Week. Moving on to the Players Era tournament. So this is, again, started yesterday, goes again today. We've got some really good matchups. Again, Tennessee blew out Rutgers yesterday. They get Houston today. Big win for Iowa State. I called in my Big 12 preview. I think Iowa State's a sleeper pick to win that league. They could be the second or third best team in the Big 12, and they beat St. John's in a really good game yesterday as well. St. John's, they were ranked 14th. They're going to continue to slip a little bit. They lost again. They've lost a couple games already this year. So Rick Pitino's got to get those guys going again. But they gave up 83 points to Iowa State. That's not typically what you'd see from a St. John's team, a Rick Pitino coach team. But I really like Iowa State, and nothing I've seen so far this year makes me doubt that pick in the Big 12. Looking ahead, we've talked about Houston, Tennessee. Should be a great game. Those are very similar teams. Jacoby Gillespie from Tennessee, their point guard. I think he's got to play really well today. These guards for Houston are big. So if Tennessee's typically a team that battles well on the boards, and if they can do that, this should be another good test for both of these teams. Should be a great game. We got the battle for Atlantis. Maui Invitational's going on right now too. And then Minnesota's actually at the Acrisure Classic. They play Stanford later this week. And, some interesting games from the Gophers' perspective. I've been kind of disappointed, I think. I don't know that I expected them to beat San Francisco, who probably will be a tournament team. This year they might get an at-large bid out of the West Coast. They have a potential first-round pick on the floor for San Francisco. And they're just... it's hard to say this, but they, I think, are just a little bit more talented and athletic than Minnesota. So the Gophers go to Sioux Falls last Saturday. They lose to San Francisco after being down. They made a run. They tied it up. They ended up losing by like 11 or 12. They got Stanford. They really need to get that win. They lost to Missouri. They now lost to San Francisco. They need to get a win against a high major team. So we'll see how they do against Stanford down in Palm Springs. St. Thomas went out to Portland and played in a little tournament. They had 3 games in 3 days. They went 2-1. One of their wins was a really exciting game where they fouled a guy on a 3-pointer at the end of the game. They go down 2. The guy makes 2 out of 3 with 2 seconds left. Inbound to Nolan Minnesale hits a half-court runner for the win. So really exciting game for St. Thomas. Like I said, they beat Portland the other day as well. So they go 2-1 out there. I think the loss was to Fullerton, Cal State Fullerton, and a good week for the Tommies as well. So that's the show today. I appreciate you listening. I know it's Thanksgiving week. Maybe you're going to be in the car a lot. Maybe you're driving somewhere. But I hope you take a listen. And it's been a busy week. A lot of interesting things with the Wolves, frustrating losses. The college games are really exciting. There's a lot of great matchups this week with Feast Week. More games today, so I encourage you to check those out. And don't forget the Wolves play at OKC Thanksgiving Eve. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you listening. Follow on Instagram, Facebook. If you want to watch the podcast, they are on YouTube. Not all of them have me and my face for radio, face for podcasts, but we do some. So if you want to listen on YouTube, if that's easier, that's available too. But hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. Have a great feast week. Enjoy it. Be safe. Be well. Thanks for listening. This has been the Splash City Basketball Podcast.
Back in that bag again.